over the weekend, there was a huge upset in Louisiana as they elected a Democratic governor. Interesting. Now, this was, the Democrat in the race was Bel Edwards, and he had went up against David Vitter for the governor of Louisiana. Remember, Bobby Jindal is stepping down from governor. His term is, going to be over with. And by the way, Jindal had also just dropped out of the presidency. So Jindal, gone, right? And now, so is David Vitter. But first, before we get into that, we've got some election results. I want to get into some of the numbers. Bel Edwards had actually won about 56% of the vote. And he said, upon winning, I will not let you down. This election shows the people of Louisiana, in a time of deep cynicism about our politics and also our future, have chosen hope over scorn and over a distrust of others. Now, here's what's interesting, right? David Vitter has ran an incredibly negative campaign using super PAC money and money from industry. Negative attack ad after negative attack ad. I mean, this guy is literally smearing feces over the wall and trying to see what sticks. Luckily, nothing stuck, showing that Bel Edwards, a Democrat, won 56% of the vote. That's a huge upset for Louisiana. Now, Vitter also, since he was serving in the Senate, he said that he will not seek re-election in 2016. So Vitter, gone, also gone. Great. That's great. Now, here's the thing. Even though it's an upset, and even though Bel Edwards is a Democrat, he's also a very conservative Democrat, which makes sense in a state like Louisiana. He's actually, he opposes abortion and supports gun rights. So as I said, not exactly a Democrat, right? Not exactly a progressive champion. Don't get me wrong, right? There is, pretty much a lot of liberals, most liberals actually do support the Second Amendment. We do support gun rights. We just want some honest controls and some common sense gun reform. Now, I don't know about Bel Edwards, but whenever I see we support gun rights, I usually think of, oh, great. So where's his rating from the NRA? If it's not a failing grade, then I'm skeptical. So as I said, I don't see Bel Edwards as a progressive champion. But is it better than David Vitter? Hell's yes. Now, why did David Vitter lose? I think a lot of people are going to point towards his prostitution scandals. I think that's a part of it. That's definitely a part of it. And I had talked about this before on the podcast over the weekend before the election, how that's a part of it. But it's also corruption. It's also a rebuke of negative politicking and the corruption going on in Louisiana. And for example, we have Louisiana was voted the most corrupt state in the union. And it's, your normal corruption, which shouldn't be normal at all. But in Louisiana, it was an industry. Just an industry of corruption. Now, they had a lot of oil and gas production. And, of course, you had a lot of legalized bribery going on. So that was one of the issues. Now, I was talking with Mike about this, as I said, over the weekend on a podcast, Mike and Jess Politics. We were talking about this, and he said, look, there's an acceptable level of corruption that people will tolerate, as long as it means that they get something for it, right? Whether it be, just to keep jobs around, because a lot of what Louisiana does is oil and gas. So if people are like, well, that's our only option, then I guess I know these companies are corrupt. I know they're buying off our politicians, but it keeps me into a job. So I'm going to tolerate it. But in Louisiana, it had gotten so bad. The crony capitalism had gotten so bad that it started to affect other programs. For example, under Bobby Jindal's leadership, They had a huge $1 billion deficit. Huge. And they started to fill that by cutting education to the bone and by cutting social programs for the poor and the needy. Now, Louisiana also ranks really high in poverty. So when you cut those programs, you're essentially destroying families. You're making it so that people can't live. And people see that, people notice that, and they vote against that. No, we do need those programs. That's the only thing keeping us alive. So they're going to vote for somebody who vows to keep those programs. And this may be good news for all the people who could be eligible for Medicaid. John Bel Edwards just might actually expand Medicaid. And that's a good thing. Now getting back to the political angle of it, both Edwards and Vitter were both going after Bobby Jindal over his failed policies. Bobby Jindal is not very popular. I mean, he's not popular everywhere, but he's especially unpopular. In Louisiana, he's doing terribly. Absolutely terribly. It seems like he can't even tan or be rested enough in his own state to be anything short of unpopular. He's incredibly unpopular. He was doing terribly. And David Vitter, who had essentially the same kind of shitty policies as Bobby Jindal, had a hard time trying to separate themselves. Trying to separate himself from Bobby Jindal. So, the voters in Louisiana, they made a clear choice. And that choice is anyone but Jindal and anyone but Vitter. And in John Bel Edwards, at least they got that.